Hello there, my name is Adam, and in this video and the subsequent one, I want to go over the AWS Serverless Application Model and show you how you can build serverless Python-based applications and deploy them to the AWS Cloud. And in the following video, I'm going to show how to do this, but with the Flask micro framework API as well. So if you haven't heard of the Serverless Application Model, sometimes referred to as SAM, it's a framework for quickly prototyping and doing rapid application development of serverless-based applications. So by serverless, I mean it uses many of the managed resources within AWS, such as AWS Lambda, API Gateway, DynamoDB, AWS Kinesis, SQS. There are many to go through, so I won't go through all of them. But the key parts are really listed here on the AWS Serverless Application Model landing page. It makes a single deployment configuration that is built on top of CloudFormation infrastructure as code template system. It enables local testing and debugging, and it has many integrations with other services that I already named, as well as code deploy, which is one of the AWS Cloud's continuous integration, continuous delivery services. So how do we get up and going? Well, if we go to the resources tab, and then we find the AWS SAM developer guide, there's a getting started section that describes how to install the AWS SAM CLI based off of the type of operating system that you're using. So one of the prerequisites for using AWS SAM is you have the regular AWS CLI installed. And so since the docs are honestly so very good in AWS for installing both the standard AWS CLI as well as the SAM CLI, I'm going to leave it up to the viewer to find the documentations that I'm listing here and the specific sections for your given individual operating system and get installed. And once you've installed SAM, you should be able to type SAM --version into a shell and get back out a response that looks like this. Your version might vary somewhat as SAM is an active, ongoing, actually open source project. But I would say as long as it's probably something under version 2.0 and under, then what I'm going to show you should work. And so let me make a quick directory here to work in. So let's call it temp SAM. I'll cd into temp SAM, and I'll start demonstrating some of what the SAM CLI can do for you. So if I do SAM --help, you have the following subcommands that you can do with it. You can initialize a new SAM application. You can validate a SAM template. And again, that's built on top of the AWS CloudFormation infrastructure as code technology. You can build an application. You can run it locally, package and deploy it, interrogate logs in CloudWatch, as well as publish your application to the Serverless Application Repository. So one of the things that I like best about SAM is actually it comes with a handful of prepackaged examples for helping us as developers get up and go quickly with it, based off of working deployable examples. So let's run through a simple hello world template that they give us. So if I do SAM init, then it'll interactively ask me what type of project I want to work with. So I want to work with one of the quick start templates that I was just mentioning, so I'll enter 1. And I want to use a zip packaging type. So enter one again. And these are the different languages that SAM supports for runtimes. So Node.js, JavaScript, Ruby, Go, Python, .NET, as well as Java. So really, pretty much most of your common high-level languages they support, which is pretty neat. And so I'm going to be working with Python in this example, so I'll put 2 in. And then for the name of the project, which is also going to correspond to the name of the CloudFormation stack that gets deployed, I'm going to call it, let's call it Python Hello World. And so that's actually cloning a cookie cutter template from one of the AWS GitHub repositories. And then it says, okay, well, which quick start template do I want to work with? I'm going to choose number 1, which is just a simple Hello World REST API. So I'll enter 1. And then it says, okay, there's a README to help you get up and going in this directory right here. So if I list my directory now, I see that it's created a project directory with the same name as I entered in one of the earlier questions. So if I I change directories into Python Hello World, then I can take a look at what's in the directory as well as open it up in a code editor. So I will type code period, which is a shortcut of my system for opening code projects in Visual Studio Code. So taking a look in here, it gives us an events directory showing us how we can mock out, in our case, HTTP requests as if they were coming from API gateway to invoke a Lambda function. The source code for a simple hello world Lambda function within the hello_world directory, complete with an init.py to make it a proper Python package, an app.py with example source code for a Lambda handler, accepting 2 parameters. One is the event of the HTTP request parsed out into a dictionary, and then a context object further described in a docstring. And then it specifies for a return type just a standard everyday Python dictionary in a specific format needed by API gateway, which will then reformat it as a proper HTTP request and return it to any calling application. Also within the hello world directory is a requirements.txt file where we can list any third-party dependencies we want to include when writing our applications. And then a test directory complete with a standard PyTest implementation for writing unit tests and integration tests using the PyTest framework. And then a pretty helpful README walking through how to get up and going and using the SAM CLI, the SAM framework, which we're actually going to just walk through in this video instead of looking at. And then what I affectionately refer to as the heart of every SAM application, which is the SAM template. And as what this is just an abstraction built over the AWS CloudFormation infrastructure as code technology. So if you cruise through this template YAML file, the first thing you should notice is a directive that starts off exactly the same for every single CloudFormation based template, and then listing a transformation, letting the CloudFormation parser know that this is going to be a serverless application model template. A description, and then a global section that can be inherited by other resources specified within the SAM template, and one resource. So this resource is named Hello World function. It is of type AWS Serverless function. So if you're familiar at all with CloudFormation, usually this will look something like AWS Lambda function. And then you can see here I've got a plugin on my editor that shows all the different components to a standard CloudFormation Lambda resource. But instead, the AWS SAM framework provides an abstract and more trimmed down or terse implementation of that, which also encapsulates an events section to specify what event within the AWS ecosystem should invoke this Lambda function. So in our case, our event is of type API, which creates an API gateway resource to serve as the front-end entry point for our HTTP requests, which then get parsed by API gateway and passed on to invoke a Lambda function. This Lambda function lives, as we said earlier, right here in the Hello World directory, and that's specified by the code URI property. And then the handler is denoted as the Lambda handler function within the app.py module. So that's this right here. And then, of course, we're using the Python 3.8 runtime. The final section to cover is the output section. And this is a way to output specifically formatted resource strings that get provisioned in your SAM project. So in this Hello World template example, that is the API gateway endpoint that can be used by HTTP clients or browsers. The ARN for a Hello World function, as well as an IAM role for the IAM role used by the Lambda function within the SAM project. And this is actually a really cool functionality as well, in that depending on the type of event that you specify with your serverless function, different IAM roles and policy permissions need to be used to allow those two services to interact with each other. But as you can see here, I'm never explicitly writing any CloudFormation code to specify any IAM users, roles, policies, or anything like that. That actually just gets implicitly handled by the SAM framework itself. So let's see how we can now go ahead and build and deploy this to the AWS Cloud, so to my AWS account. So the first thing you want to do is you want to open up a shell in the same directory as your template.py file or template.yaml file, and do sam build -- use container. So what the use container flag says is to download a specific Amazon Docker image and build the resources within that Docker image that closely resembles the execution environment for the runtime of that Lambda function. After that, I do a SAM deploy, which it tells me, it hints right here what should be done next. So if I do SAM deploy guided, it'll ask me a series of interactive questions. So for the name of the stack, I want to name this Python Hello World. I want to deploy it to the US East Region 1. Sure, that's fine. Do I want to have it ask me to confirm any changes? Yes, I do. Do I want to allow it to create IAM roles for me? Yes, I do. Do I want to authorize the function? Yes, I do. Do I want to save these parameters to a configuration file? Yes, I do. And so that's really useful because now the next time I want to deploy, I don't have to be asked these same questions again. I can just type SAM deploy and it'll use these previously saved values. So it tells me right here it's going to save it to a SAM config toml file. So I'll push enter saying that's fine to do, and the default environment. And so what this is doing is it's taking those pre-built source code repositories or pre-built source code directory of the hello world function, uploading it to an S3 bucket in my account, and then using AWS code deploy to deploy all the resources that you see being listed in front of me here. So it should just take a few seconds to deploy the IAM roles, the Lambda function, API gateway, instance, and then it'll show me a URL path that I can access my hello world function at. So right there. So now if I use an HTTP client, such as my browser or the HTTP Pi CLI-based client, along with the URL it gives me, then I should get a message back that says hello world, just like what was shown here in the templated example for the source code. So this has been a quick introduction to the serverless application model, and specifically using the pre-canned or provided hello world template application. In the next video, I'm going to show how you can refactor this simple hello world example to use the Flask API, essentially flaskifying the serverless application that we see here. I hope you enjoy this and join me in my next video. Thank you.